Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2018 comedy titled Tag. Now, Tag runs for 1 hour and 41 minutes long. It is directed by Jeff Tomsic. It is produced by Todd Garner, Mark Stylin. The script was written by Rob McKittrick and Mark Stylin. It is based off of a story by Mark Stylin, and it is based off of an article in the Wall Street Journal titled "It takes planning and caution to avoid being it" by Russell Adams. The score was done by Jermaine Franco, the cinematography by Larry Blanford, and it was edited by Josh Cordette. And the stars of the movie are Ed Helms, Jake Johnson, Annabelle Wallis, Hannibal Buress, Isla Fisher, Rashida Jones, Leslie Bibb, John Hamm, and Jeremy Renner. So inspired by true events based off of an article by the Wall Street Journal, Tag tells the story of a group of friends from the Pacific Northwest area as they embark on a game of tag that they have been playing every month of May for the past 30 years. In fact, their game is so personal that they manage to, I don't know how they do it, but they somehow seem to successfully manage to step out of their busy schedules, busy routines, just so that they could play this competitive game of tag, which has been a time-honored tradition for these gentlemen in the past 30-plus years. The game is definitely fun and all that, but the principal goal for the gang is to finally get their hands on this one particular participant who has dodged being tagged for a long time, and fellow participant Jerry Pierce, played by Jeremy Renner, who seems to use his athleticism, his intelligence, and also, I guess you could say, his comedic resourcefulness to sort of always get the better hand of the other taggers. He will do anything he can to keep his undefeated streak alive, even if it means setting up traps, even if it comes to a point where a character or characters could get potentially hurt. As long as he remains undefeated in this game of tag, he will go to any lengths necessary. Sometimes he might even use his wife, his soon-to-be married wife, Susan Rollins, played by Leslie Bibb, to be in on this whole keeping his streak alive. But this game of tag could be the last chance to tag Jerry, as he may want to sort of retire from this game undefeated. You know, when he feels that there is no more energy left in his tank, he's going to call it off. And the group will go through any lengths necessary to tag him, just as much as he's going to go through any lengths necessary to keep his streak and to retire an untouchable. To prove that this work is not convoluted work of fiction, the film actually does show archive footage of the real characters that this movie was based on, as we see them incognito, engaging in silly pranks, and stalking them in showers, all for the sake of saying those two dreaded words, "You're it." The group abide the words of this philosophical mantra based on the James Holmes, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. They say that Ben Franklin coined the phrase, which is actually quite untrue, as I've just mentioned. It was actually somebody named James Holmes who said that phrase. So the guys, which includes one of their wives, played by Ilsa Fisher, used this game of tag as a decoy so that they could keep in contact all these years, which is for a good cause due to so many former high school teens as they drift away, never to hear from each other ever again. Which is kind of a sad thing, because most of the time when you're in high school, you may probably have a best friend for life. But then once you go off to high school, once you graduate from high school, go to college, and pursue employment and build a family and have kids and have jobs and have careers, and you make friends with new colleagues, well, chances are all your friends from high school, well, you never hear from them or see from them ever again, because they're always so busy and occupied with their lives, they just don't have time to reflect from the past. And it sometimes just comes to a point where they never see or hear from each other ever again. But here, I think that was the main purpose as to why they continued this 30-year-on tradition of tag, is so that it's not just a sport, it's not just a competitiveness, but it's also to sort of keep in contact with people who you've known for a long time, and you want to sort of like maintain this unity that they had in store for each other. But what's surreal is that these guys, who must be so wealthy to pull all their resources together for this one game of tag, that they have unlimited time on their hands. When you think about it, these guys are not poor. These guys seem to have well-established jobs. They're very educated. But then I often wonder to myself, since these guys are such busy individuals with their high-paid jobs and their busy schedules, how do they manage to at least cram their time just to play a game of tag? I don't think that really makes much sense. I mean, maybe they might find a way, but what's their excuse to step out of work just to play a stupid game of tag? I mean, what's the excuse of, just taking time off for a game of tag? They must have a lot of time on their sleeves. Either they could be just doing very important jobs, or maybe they're not doing so important jobs. Or maybe they're doing such important jobs that the management could probably keep their line of work intact while they go off and tag each other. And sure, it may look like fun and exciting and all that, but in the end, don't they have any consideration for their families, for their work, for their schedules, for their agendas? Doesn't look that way, doesn't it? Tag is about as illogical as it comes. Even though it is based off of true stories and actual events, it's about as surreal as it comes. But once you get to realize that, you could just bask into the surrealism and enjoy the ride. And what a fun ride it is. Jerry is definitely a tough nugget who dodges being tagged, but also plays his traps like a mouse in a cartoon, just to outsmart his friends, just to preserve his undefeated streak, and will even get his fiancée involved in this game of nonsense. His friends will do anything to finally catch the one who always gets away. The story begins with Hogan Malloy, played by Ed Helms. He's a veterinarian who applies for a job, even goes as far as to apply for a job as a custodian at the company that his friend and CEO Bob Callahan, played by John Hamm, works, just to take in friend and fellow tagger while being interviewed by a Wall Street Journal reporter, played by Annabelle Wallis. This catches the attention of the reporter, and she is more interested in the game than the company that Bob works for, and joins along on the fun as they try to catch the untouchable Jerry Pierce. Again, why do they have so much time on their sleeves? Doesn't Hogan have many sick animals that need to be tended to? Why is he abandoning these sick animals just to play a game of tag? Doesn't make much sense now, does it? But unless you can avoid and refrain from thinking of the surrealism that is depicted in this movie, maybe in the end that is not exactly a bad thing to do. Just bask in the glory and enjoy the ride. I think that's exactly what they are trying to do, and I think that's just what the purpose of this movie is about. I mean, there are times when you can actually suspend your disbelief. Sometimes it's so involving, you just have this guilty pleasure that you want to play tag with these guys. And they look like they're having the time of their lives. So I guess if they're having the time of their lives, why should we? Why shouldn't we? Just saying. Though all in fun, Jerry does lay some restrictions in their quest to catch him. The gang are to lay off him as he gets married and to back off during the rehearsal dinner. Other than that, everything's fair game, which also includes his AA meetings. The gang goes to great lengths to catch their foe, including paying off individuals like there's nothing else that matters in the world. And though the reason for this reunion takes a turn also for a much darker plot twist. Now we all know that Jerry is, getting married, wants to retire, and many people might think that that's the dark route. But then it was also been acknowledged that Hogan Malloy's character, well, let's just say he has seen better times. I mean, he looks rather sickly frail. And there was a time during one of the scenes where he ends up fainting on the floor. And then it was revealed by the doctors that Hogan has been diagnosed with cancer. And that he isn't really given that much time to live. That's the dark root of this story. I know people probably didn't want to hear it, but sometimes it's best to just tell the truth than to keep things bottled inside. Wouldn't you agree? The movie is very entertaining in spite of the surrealism that comes along for the ride, and the performers all look like they're having a good time. The real standout performance definitely comes from Jeremy Renner, who was excellent as the mysterious, untouchable tagger. His resourcefulness is definitely so impressive that you remain intrigued that he'll escape getting tagged by the others, and it's handled with definite great comedic timing. There also was actual scenes for comical or dramatizations licensing, but look through the actual footage. It seems highly unlikely. Yes, it was actually based off of a true story about a group of taggers who's been doing this for over 3 decades. And yeah, I got to say this movie. You know, if I would have not known that this was based on a true story, I would have definitely thought this was a work of fiction. But because this movie is so real, I'm like, wow. And though maybe it might look silly and juvenile to see grown adults, 40-year-olds playing a game of tag, might seem juvenile and immature, but I think it was just that spirit alone that just keeps them living longer. And even through sick times and in sick times and in health, these guys really know the true meaning of unity even after high school. And that even though these guys have lives outside this game of tag, and though it might seem a little surreal that these guys have too much time on their hands for a stupid game of tag, but I'm going to tell you something. Maybe this stupid game of tag isn't so stupid because it's something that they've done. It's kind of like a project that they've been doing. And I think that that just sort of like keeps the unity within this group alive. The camaraderie just stays in the balance. Because like I mentioned before, when you're in high school, people drift away. They never speak to each other. They never talk to each other ever again because they've all moved forward in their lives. I just don't have time for each other. I mean, you could have the best friend in the year of the best friend ever in high school. Then when you go to college, you drift away to the point where we don't really see each other ever again. It's sad, but these guys did everything they could to keep that unity alive. And I got to say, the performances are overall really good. I definitely enjoyed Jeremy Renner's role. He was definitely dynamic. He didn't have as much dialogue, but he definitely had a lot of great resourceful ways to help solidify his position as the untouchable tagger. And I think he did a very good job. I gotta say, the acting was really good overall. The other actors did quite a good job too. The story was fun. It was impressive. It stayed simple, but it was definitely a movie that I would recommend if you could suspend your disbeliefs and just go with the flow. It's a fun, exciting ride, and I highly recommend it. I don't say it's the greatest movie I've ever seen, but it's definitely far from the worst. So when all is said and done, if I was to give a movie a scale out of 10 for Tag, I would definitely give it a 7.5 out of 10. Really good movie. I highly recommend it. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I'll be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.